It's 2025 today. This is not a joke. It's all accurate stuff, I'm going to tell you. This is a place I like for taking people if I buy a croquet set to come play croquet. Don't know who, but except, we might have an issue, with irresponsible people. And it's like they think, oh, that's the biggest dog toilet I've seen where I don't have to pick it up. Yeah, no. So this is the new place. So yesterday on my way out to come to Badminton is, I don't know, he had just hurt himself. Like, I know his working style is bad because I've done things with him, and I said, that's not the right way to lift that box. Let me do it. And he's stubborn about still doing it himself and still doing it the way to hurt himself. And of course, he always hurts himself. He thinks it's normal because he's old. No, it's not normal to be stubborn and hurt yourself. Anyways, so I say, oh, there's a carpet that's too long. And I said, it needs to be cut this much because of either, you gotta watch where I'm walking at the same time here. Because of either it'll keep that door open, which means maybe rats will come in or people that shouldn't come in. Or people will trip off the last step because it'll come up and intrude on the last step. And he said, well, you cut it. So he wants me to work there. But later in the conversation, he says I can't work there. Not even as a volunteer. So, and I said, well, I don't have the tool for that because it's a carpet where you can't use regular scissors. But then it escalates, and I said, and the other thing I say is let me know how many screens, because me and my neighbor, we need a screen. We're missing screens. And I said it's possible if you have to order some, if you haven't found. I don't know if you even looked everywhere for screens. In the month, I've told them about this coming up as something in the summer. And I said, well, you should count to see how many we need, because it might be more than just me and my neighbor before you buy some. Oh, they're not going to buy some. They have other priorities. And I said, well, if I buy one, I can submit the receipt. Oh, he hates that. For him, it's an attack. And you have to ask him why that's an attack. Submitting a receipt to lower their workload, right? is for their responsibilities. Anyways, it escalates. And then neighbors that I've been nice to, including one guy who was extremely toxic at the beginning, and that I've defended, and that I've helped, now also gets into this mob mentality thing. So there are three. And like, he now threatens to evict me because he's worried, that I'll fall off a roof. He wasn't worried when I went in to unlock when he was there with his ladder, somebody's door. But now that he's hurt, he's worried, and he thinks I would sue. Because people think like that, right? They don't understand people take responsibility for their actions, and they could even put in writing, I won't sue you if I make a mistake here. I believe it is safe because I'll be careful, and the roof tiles are pretty solid, and I can jump from this height anyways. But, people get paranoid with their old age because their attitudes don't change, their skill sets don't increase, and therefore they just want to minimize by controlling others, right? And threatening others with that control, such as an eviction notice. And I had just helped somebody take her TV off her wall. I had just called 911 and supported a person until they came. And I had just also set up in the last week or so, or week and a half, 2 people going to Erin at the same time to coincide with a medical appointment for one of them that needed a ride. As I'm also helping the Canadian Cancer Society make corrections on errors on Facebook. Okay, so I'm a helper, and I'm being attacked as a helper that's kind. Now, it's not everybody that's like that there, but we're not looking at 2 or 3 people. We're looking at more than that, and it's enough when others don't fight to, let's say, hey, don't crucify Jesus. And I'm not saying I'm Jesus, but saying, hey, don't do that. He's a good guy. Then, it's too much. I decided that's it. I'm not. So now, when I hand in my rent check in the afternoon, because it won't be ready till then, I'll just put it in the box where people put the requests for repairs, and I'll say, I left my mailbox unlocked. You could put the receipt. I don't want to talk to him in person if it's not required. Well, what's even crazier, this is not a joke, before 8 a.m. I'm still in bed. A neighbor has the same name beside me. We kind of like each other. I'm happy he's beside me. He says, oh, I said, yes, I don't open the door. I said, oh, you thought I'd open the door, but no. And I said, yes, what is it, Bruce? And he said people told him he owes me an apology for an argument. And of course, we weren't in an argument. But this gossip is so toxic and spreads so quickly and is so inaccurate that he wanted to apologize. And it's the landlord guy that's called Bruce. He's the one that should apologize. Of course, he won't. I'd be very surprised if he did, unless my article shows in the paper this week. An article I sent for free, which is, except for one little dash I should add somewhere, is I wrote it in less than an hour, and I think it's pretty good. And it's cultural repair, right? It's road safety related, bicycle safety, things like that. So and this Cancer Society thing, I wrote the lady, I said, hey, you got the job. I just want to let you know, I spent an hour in an interview for that same job where I had to repeat myself because the lady was a horrible listener. But you got the job. You might want to change Campbell River to Prince Rupert. And she does it and says, thank you. But she doesn't acknowledge the other things. I said, you probably got the job because your Spanish is better, because the lady that interviewed had Spanish ancestry, and this lady also. I'm sure this lady lives in the city. I don't know. I mean, maybe she's on the island and she gave her friend the job when she was interviewing me about how much I know local stuff. Come on. It's ridiculous. And that's me giving the Cancer Society another chance. And by the way, they've had this program for long enough that they should already be established here. And the fact they're not is shameful. And if I get any crap from them anymore, I'm going to post why I stopped being a volunteer Cancer Society driver. And it's because they were wasting money. Like when I said, hey, okay, you hired somebody to test all your drivers on Vancouver Island, let me do my own town for free. And they wouldn't do it. I don't know, maybe it's already negotiated, the contract, and they don't want to renegotiate to lower the price because we have one of our volunteers. Probably the person would have said yes. So the person gives me a perfect grade, enjoys what she learns from me. And I'm like, I don't like this money laundering. It's also when I'm a volunteer, we're invited to a place supposed to be training. It's not training, it's just you rent an expensive room with food and you just talk as if you're God's gift to this planet. Oh my God. So Cancer Society and medical system in Canada is why I would prefer to not get treatment here in Canada or at all if I am diagnosed with cancer. But unfortunately, bad news. I eventually kept calling, and the biopsy of my stomach doesn't really show cancer, so bad news. People might say, oh my God, you're suicidal or you must be depressed. No. My first choice would be for your gods to exist and come get you off this planet in a way that, it decommissions the nuclear power plants, cleans up all the pollution, that it makes sure that, animals in zoos don't die of starvation, like it does it in a humane way. But of course, that's not as possible as me getting cancer. So of course, that's kind of my wish when I'm triggered by species alienation because of your bad behaviors. As a majority, there's so many of you that are adult children that live and die without going through the maturation process for being a human with sentience and sapience in your behaviors and not just in your talk of who you sell yourself as being while you're acting incongruently. So that's the last thing I told the landlord. I said, you're contradicting yourself so many ways here. And if he wants to talk again, I'm going to say it's unfair. We're unequals. One way we're unequal is you can threaten to evict me. I can't do that to you. The other thing is I have human thinking tools. You don't. It's not fair to you. You'll get frustrated and all your response will be to evict me. Now, I'm not making this stuff up, folks. That is the species I share DNA with, and that is the origin of why I suffer from species alienation, which is great sadness and shame and disappointment in sharing the same DNA as this intellectual, lazy people primate species that is ruining heaven. This is heaven. This planet is heaven, and the species I share DNA with is breaking it in all ways it's possible to break it and accelerating these breakages.